Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Now, there are a lot of reasons that this Epstein scandal is not going away for Donald Trump. One of them is this. He and his administration keep behaving every day like they have something to hide. I mean, Trump himself cannot keep his story straight about Jeffrey Epstein. And the more he talks about it, the worse it seems to get. In his attempt to spin another version of how he broke up with the late child sex trafficker, Donald Trump said something truly disturbing about one of Epstein's victims.
That's such old history, very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth.
So that was Trump yesterday at his Scotland golf resort, which, by the way, he's promoting flying there on the taxpayer dime, saying he stole people that worked for me. Did he really mean that? Today we learned the answer was yes.
People were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
That was audio that we got from Air Force One. We had only the audio. Spa or not spa, don't take my people. So Donald Trump now says that he ejected the world's most notorious trafficker and abuser of minor women and girls from his life because the guy kept stealing his spa workers. You split up the friendship 15 years because he was grooming and recruiting your staff to go abuse them, but you didn't do anything about it? It's a very strange thing to say. It's also a narrative that, like so much with Trump, has just this little kernel of truth buried inside it.
Virginia Roberts was working in the spa at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach when British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell introduced her to multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein.
The training started immediately. I mean, it was everything down to how to give a blowjob, how to be quiet, be subservient, give Jeffrey what he wants.
That woman, who later changed her name to Virginia Giuffre, was 16 when she was indeed recruited from Mar-a-Lago by Maxwell, not Epstein. And after breaking free of Epstein, she became a really outspoken advocate for her fellow victims. She led them in multiple lawsuits. Giuffre died by suicide earlier this year. So was she who Trump was talking about?
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
Yep, he stole her. Definitely the worst thing that Jeffrey Epstein did was hire someone away from Donald Trump. That is Donald Trump referring to the teenage sexual assault victim recruited from his club by Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. He stole her. And so that's why the two men stopped hanging out. Well, actually, probably not, since we've got actual timestamps on all this. Virginia Giuffre left Mar-a-Lago with Ghislaine Maxwell in the year 2000. Trump was still socializing with Epstein long after that. In fact, it was just 2 years later, after Giuffre was recruited out of the spa, when Trump told New York Magazine in 2002 that Jeff is a, quote, terrific guy, a lot of fun to be with. It is even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. It was 3 years later, in 2003, that Trump would reportedly send a birthday letter scribbled inside the hand-drawn outline of a naked woman, a letter that said, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Enigmas never age. May every day be another wonderful secret." It's just Trump constantly shifting between multiple accounts that don't add up. I mean, remember this, okay? In Trump's first term, it was widely reported that Epstein and the future president fell in 2004 after they ended up in a bidding war over an oceanfront Palm Beach mansion. Back then, Trump was also insisting Epstein had never been a member of Mar-a-Lago. But then journalists from Miami Herald and Wall Street Journal reviewed a club registry showing, aha, Epstein had had in fact been a Mar-a-Lago member all the way until October 2007, long after he was already under federal and local investigation for sex crimes. In fact, multiple club members told reporters that Trump severed ties with Epstein after the disgraced financier hit on the teenage daughter of a Mar-a-Lago member, threatening the Trump brand of glitz and glamour. So after that report, Trump changed his story, started telling people, yeah, he was a member and I did throw Epstein out of his club. But he never went into the reasons for their falling out. Until today, it still doesn't add up any more than the previous stories he's told, all of which he grafted onto the back of this news story yesterday.
It's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this, those files were run by the worst scum on earth. They were run by Comey. They were run by Garland. They were run by Biden. I was running against somebody that ran the files. If they had something, they would have released. Now, they can easily put something in the files that's a phony. They say there's a drawing of a woman, and I don't do drawings of women. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island.
You gotta love Donald Trump patting himself on the back for not going to Jeffrey Epstein's island. So what story he's trying to tell? Like, the files are fake. They were run by the worst scum of the earth. They might have put stuff in there. I never wrote that letter. I'm suing Rupert Murdoch over it. Again, it's not just a rhetorical question. It's something the Trump administration officials are wildly trying to discern, right? Their job is to kind of come up with whatever the kind of cover story is here, including Attorney General Pam Bondi, who promised the Epstein files were on her desk for release in February, and then turned around and said, look, nothing to see here. Early this month, we're not releasing anything else. She also released a video, a recording outside Jeffrey Epstein's prison cell the night he died, a video that was, as many people immediately pointed out, missing at least a minute. And then she really stumbled to explain why that minute was missing. Today, a government official with knowledge of the investigation tells CBS News that the DOJ is in possession of the raw footage that it's not missing a minute. So the question is, why didn't Bondi release that tape? Why would she give what appears to be a false explanation for the gap in the tape she did release, saying every tape had that gap? Again, I don't know. I really don't know. DOJ declined to comment CBS. I don't know the truth here. Like, I am inclined to believe that Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself. I don't know what's in the files. I don't know what Donald Trump did or didn't do with Jeffrey Epstein. They hung out a lot, as you see there. I went into this thinking that largely this had been constructed on a real horrible serial predator, an unbelievable miscarriage of justice in that initial deal with Jeffrey Epstein. But all these shifting stories and the half-truths, they sure start to sound like a cover-up of some sort. And they're all coming after the sketchiest developments so far. Last week, Trump's former personal lawyer, now the #2 at the Department of Justice, sat down for 2 full days of conversation with Epstein's chief accomplice, convicted child sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. She's now offering to testify to Congress, get this, in exchange for immunity from further prosecution and getting the questions in advance. Could she also get a Trump pardon in exchange for the testimony that further distances the president from Epstein? He says he's not thinking about that, but he has said that before pardoning people before a few times. Again, we know they were friends. We know they were associates. We got some, information that's confirmed. Look at your screen. We don't know the full contours of Trump's relationship with Epstein. We don't know actually why they had a falling out. But if this administration was trying to cover up something, what would they be doing differently?